Look at here. This is the human skeleton, and with the help of this human skeleton, I am going to demonstrate the axilla. What are the boundaries of the axilla? What are the functions of the axilla? You can note down, this is the thoracic cavity. In the thoracic cavity, we have got the heart, from where the vessels will start, from where the artery will start, and will move towards the whole body. The upper limb will also receive the arteries, and then from arteries we will get the veins. After the arteries, we get the veins, and veins have to move back to the heart side. So upper limb receive the vascular supply from the thorax. Then what is the gateway? What is the gateway of these vessels, these arteries, veins, and nerves? Upper limb receive nerves from the neck region. Here we have got the brachial plexus. From here the brachial plexus will move towards the upper limb. What about arteries and veins? Arteries and veins are starting from the heart here in the thorax. From the thorax region, the arteries will come out and will move towards the upper limb. And then upper limb will have veins, and vein will move back towards the heart in the thorax. So the question is how these three basic structures, the nerves, the arteries and the veins, access the upper limb from their origin. Origin of the artery is here in the thorax, and destination of the veins is here in the thorax, from where the upper limb will get the access. The access point of the upper limb, the gateway of the upper limb, is this area. Area behind my hand is the location from where the structures will move towards the upper limb or structures will move out of the upper limb. This is the area. This area is known as the axilla. Now coming to the boundaries of the axilla, this intertubercular groove with two lips, with a lateral lip and with a medial lip, is very much important. Now coming to the boundaries of the axilla, this intertubercular groove with two lips, with a lateral lip and with a medial lip, is very much important. There are muscles that come from front and move towards the lip. There are muscles that come from back and move towards the lip. So look at here, we have muscles that come from front and move towards lip. We have muscles that are on the back, they come from the back and move towards the medial lip of the intertubercular groove. So look at here, we get a closed compartment here with a front wall and with a back wall. The front wall muscle go to the lateral lip of the intertubercular groove, and the posterior wall muscle move towards the medial lip and floor of the intertubercular groove. So here the two walls approximate. Here's the two walls approximate. The two walls has got wider separation over the rib side. Over the rib side, they have got a wider separation. I will explain shortly. Just wait a while. Now the interior walls. What are the muscles that make the interior wall of the axilla? Here we have some muscles. These are the pectoral muscles. The pectoral muscles are pec major, pec minor, and subclavius muscle. From the sternum, manubrium and the costal cartilage, a big muscle will start and will move toward the lateral lip of the intertubercular groove. So here we will have pec major muscle. From the rib 3, 4 and 5, a muscle will start and that muscle will move towards the coracoid process. So here we will have a small muscle. Pec major was a big muscle. Then we have a small muscle, that is pec minor. But again, these two are muscles of the front wall. Then we have a third muscle over the front wall, that is subclavius, that is present beneath the clavicle. Let me show you a sketch here like this. Look at this sketch. This sketch shows us the pectoral muscles that make the interior wall of the axilla. With the black color, I have shown you the pectoralis major muscle. With the blue color, I have shown you the pectoralis minor muscle, and with the red color, I have shown you the subclavius muscle. So this is the anterior wall of the axilla. Now coming to the back wall, over the back wall, you can see that over the back wall, we have got front surface of the scapula, costal surface of the scapula. This whole surface is covered with a muscle that is known as the subscapularis muscle. When we look at this angle, there are three muscles that will move from scapula towards the humerus. One is subscapularis muscle. From whole the subscapular fossa, it will move from here. It will get attached over the lesser tubercle of the humerus. Other two muscles are the teres major that start from the lower one third of the lateral border and move towards the lateral lip of the intertubercular groove. The third muscle is a latissimus dorsi muscle. It's a large muscle of the lower back. I already told you in my previous video. It's a large muscle of the lower back. After getting attached to the inferior angle of the scapula, it is attached over the intertubercular groove. So let me repeat. Intertubercular groove, this bicipital groove has got a lateral lip, a medial lip and intertubercular groove. The lateral lip give attachment to the pec major, the medial lip, inner medial lip give attachment to the teres major, and the floor gives attachment to the latissimus dorsi muscle. Let me show you this with the help of this sketch. Look at here, I have drawn subscapularis with blue color, I have drawn teres major with black color, and I have drawn latissimus dorsi with the red color. Let me fix it here and let me show you after that. So look at here, if you can focus, we've got subscapularis, we've got teres major, and we've got latissimus dorsi muscle. This will make the posterior wall of the axilla, and this is the anterior wall of the axilla. So now you can easily note down that it's a compartment, it's a pyramidal shaped compartment with a front wall, with a back wall. This compartment is the axilla compartment. Now coming to its medial wall. You cannot understand its medial wall without understanding the serratus interior muscle. Serratus interior muscle starts from the medial border of the scapula throughout the medial border of the scapula on the anterior side. A muscle will start, that is serratus interior, and from here it will move towards the rib number 1 to 8. Here we have got a big muscle with 8 digitation. This area is covered by a muscle. This area is called ribs, and then this area is covered by serratus interior muscle. So you can here note down that medial wall of the axilla will be formed by the serratus anterior muscle, and medial wall of the axilla is convex, is broader. Medial wall is broader. The reason I have already told you that the anterior wall and the posterior wall over the lateral side are narrowed. The lateral side they are narrowed, and over the medial side they are broader, like this. You can note down that anterior and posterior wall are very much wider over the medial side and are very much narrow over the lateral side. So this is the axilla with a front wall, with a back wall, with a medial wall made up of the serratus interior and ribs, and a lateral wall that we will say that it's the union of the anterior and the posterior wall. Here we have got the intertubercular groove, here we have got the bicep tendon, here we have got the coracobrachialis muscle. So anything you can write down in the lateral wall. I will now explain a point that majority students are confused, that why the lateral lip got the pec major, the medial lip got the teres major, and the groove, the floor got the latissimus dorsi muscle. Look at here. Why they have got such sequence? Because this is the best sequence, because this is the best alignment. It's about alignment. Let me show you what is the alignment. Look at here, this is the teres major muscle. Teres major muscle start from the lateral border and move towards the scapula bone. That is the latissimus dorsi muscle, that is the big muscle of the lower back and has got attachment over the inferior angle of scapula. And move towards the humerus bone. Teres major move towards humerus, latissimus dorsi move towards humerus, and then this is the pec major muscle that starting from the sternum move towards the humerus. Now you can note down that this is the best alignment. Teres major on the back, in the middle latissimus dorsi, and then comes the pec major muscle. This is the best alignment. That's why pec major is on the outer lip, lateral lip, latissimus dorsi is on the floor, middle part, and then teres major is on the median lip of the intertubercular groove. So this is about attachment, and with the help of this diagram you can also focus that we have got anterior wall and we have got a posterior wall. And why we have got a narrowed lateral wall? because muscles on the front and muscles on the back has got attachment or the intertubercular groove, that is a very small area. On a very small area, muscles of the anterior wall and muscles of the posterior wall get attached. So that's why simply we will have a narrowed lateral wall. Now I want to give you the concept of the apex and the base of the axilla. Look at this specimen here. Look at this specimen here. This is the broader convex medial wall made up of the ribs along with the serratus anterior muscle. Look at this. This is the anterior wall of the axilla that is made of the pec major muscle. Then is the pec minor muscle, and this is the subclavius muscle. This side is the anterior wall of the axilla. Look at here. This is the posterior wall of the axilla made up of the subscapularis muscle, made up of the teres major muscle, and made up of the latissimus dorsi muscle. You can note down from this angle, you can also note down that anterior and posterior wall are widely apart medially. Medially they are widely apart, and laterally they are very much close. So we have got a very narrow lateral wall. This very narrow lateral wall is the intertubercular groove area, which has got the long head of the bicep and which has got the coracobrachialis muscle. This intertubercular groove is the point where the posterior wall and anterior wall converge. So always remember why lateral wall is very much narrowed and why medial wall is very much wide. Now coming to the apex, we can fit this model here like this. You can see that we have adjusted this model here. We have got the anterior wall, we have got the medial wall, we have got the posterior wall, and we have got the apex. Look at here, we have got the apex upward. Again look at here for the apex of the axilla. This is the apex of the axilla. The apex of the axilla is bounded medially by the first rib. On the front has got clavicle, and on the back it has got the superior border of the scapula. So this is the apex of the axilla. You can note down that apex has got the bony boundaries. The front side has got a muscular boundary, and the back side has got bony and the muscular boundary, and the lateral wall is also bony. Now the base of the axilla. The concept of the base of the axilla is very much tricky, but I will try to make it very easy for you, because base of axilla has got no muscular boundary and has got no bony boundary. Then what is base of axilla? Base of axilla is just the armpit. So what is meant by that? Look at here. Again look at here. We have got a front wall and we have got a back wall. And what is this? This is the base of the axilla. And the base of the axilla is simply defined with a sentence that is a part of the skin that stretches between the anterior and the posterior wall. So this part of the skin that stretches between the anterior and the posterior wall makes the base of the axilla. This is the base of the axilla. This is the base of the axilla. So this is the axilla, which has got an apex, which has got a front wall, which has got a medial wall, which has got a posterior wall, which has got a lateral wall, and which has got a base. So this is all about the anatomy of the axilla.
I have demonstrated about the boundaries of the axilla over the human skeleton. Now I'll talk about the purpose of the axilla, the contents of the axilla, and I will show you the boundaries over these sketches. So let's start. Look at here. This is the area of the axilla. For a common man, this is armpit. Keep in mind, armpit is not the axilla. Armpit can be the base of the axilla. I will demonstrate shortly. Wait a while. But this area, this whole area is the axilla. In medical term, this is the axilla. Now look at here. This schematic diagram of human body I have drawn for showing you the purpose of the axilla. This is the thoracic cavity which has got the heart inside, and you all know that from heart we get the arteries and veins for the whole body. Here I have shown you the neck of the human body, then is the upper limb, this is the upper limb, this is the upper limb. And between the neck and the upper limb, this area is the axilla. You know that from heart we get arteries that are destined to the upper limb. Heart supplies arteries to the upper limb, and then from upper limb the arterial blood distributes and becomes venous blood, and venous blood moves back to the heart. The question is how these arteries travel towards the upper limb and how these veins come out of the upper limb. Now concentrate the artery of the upper limb. The origin is the heart. From the heart, the artery will come out and it will reach the neck. It will reach neck, and from neck it will move towards the axilla. And from axilla it will reach the upper limb. This is the route of the artery coming from the heart towards the upper limb. Likewise, we will get veins from the upper limb. Veins have to come out of the upper limb. They will reach the neck area first, passing through the axilla, and from the neck they will move back to the heart, the right side of the heart. This was about arteries and veins. Now I'll talk about the nerves of the upper limb. Nerves of the upper limb, you all know that they are starting from the brachial plexus, that is coming from the C5, 6, 7, 8 and T1 spinal nerves. So these roots of brachial plexus are mainly present in the neck area. C5, 6, 7, 8 means cervical nerves in the cervical vertebra. So for here in the neck we will have the brachial plexus. Brachial plexus produces nerves that supply the upper limb, and for these nerves the passage, the roadway is the axilla. This is the axilla. Now you can easily demonstrate what is the purpose of axilla. The purpose of axilla is any structure that is passing inside the upper limb and any structure that is passing outside the upper limb, it has to pass from the axilla. This is the gateway for arteries, veins and nerve towards the upper limb. So look at here, this is the human skeleton. We have got scapula, we have got the sternum, ribs, clavicle, and here we have got the humerus bone. We will have muscles coming from front and we will have muscles coming from the back side. In this area we will have the axilla. Let me demonstrate here. This is another simple sketch showing us the trunk area. This is the trunk which is made up of thorax and the abdomen and pelvis. This is the trunk area. And then here we have got the neck area. This is the axilla. And after axilla we have got the upper limb. You can see this axilla is a pyramidal shaped structure. On the top, this surface is the apex, and against this apex over the bottom we have got the base. So this is the base of the axilla. After apex and base, it has got four more boundaries. It has got a medial aspect. This is the medial boundary against the ribs. It has got a front aspect that is made of the pectoral region muscles. Over the back of the anterior surface, this whole surface is the posterior surface of the axilla, which is made by the scapula front, and this narrow margin is the lateral surface. I have already demonstrated in the human skeleton. What I want to focus here is only the apex and base. Concentrate here. Over the top we have got the apex. Over the bottom we have got the base. Wait a while, I will talk about the apex and the base separately. First I will go to the interior wall, the posterior wall, and then I will talk about the medial wall. Here I will demonstrate you the structure that form the interior wall and the posterior wall. So first the anterior wall muscles. The anterior wall muscles are the pec minor muscle, pec major muscle and the subclavius. You already know. Subclavius beneath the clavicle and then the first rib. This is the subclavius. Then the pectoralis minor from rib number 3, rib number 4 and rib number 5. From here the pec minor will start and will move toward the coracoid process. This muscle is the pec minor muscle. The third muscle is the pec major muscle. It is a big muscle present above these two muscles, starting from the clavicle, then manubrium, then sternum and adjacent cartilages. Not the rib but the cartilages. This is the medial attachment of the pectoralis major muscle. From here it will move towards the lateral lip of the intertubercular groove. So this whole muscle is the pec major muscle, and this whole is the anterior boundary of the axilla. Here I will show you the structures that form the posterior boundary of the axilla. This is the front aspect of the scapula, that is the subscapular fossa. From here subscapularis muscle will start and will move toward the lesser tubercle. So this muscle is the subscapularis muscle following the posterior boundary of the axilla. Second muscle of the posterior boundary is the teres major muscle, starting from the lateral bottom of the scapula toward the medial lip of the intertubercular groove. We have got the intertubercular groove. We have got the teres major muscle. The third muscle of the posterior axillary wall is the latissimus dorsi muscle. It has got attachment over the inferior angle of the scapula and it has got attachment over the floor of the intertubercular groove. So here we will have a muscle, third muscle of the posterior wall, that is the latissimus dorsi muscle. Keep in mind, latissimus dorsi is not just a small muscle, it's a big muscle of the lower back. So the subscapularis muscle, teres major muscle and this latissimus dorsi muscle, these three muscles will make the posterior boundary of the axilla. Look at here at these two diagrams. Before going to the medial wall of the axilla, this is the medial wall of the axilla. Before describing this medial wall, I'll talk about the anterior axillary fold and the posterior axillary fold, because it's very easy to understand anterior and posterior axillary fold when you know about the anterior axillary wall and the posterior axillary wall. Simply, the muscles following the anterior axillary wall project outward laterally here into a muscular fold known as the anterior axillary fold, and likewise muscles forming the posterior wall of the axilla also project outward here, make a muscular fold, and that muscular fold is known as the posterior axillary fold. The knowledge of the anterior axillary fold and the posterior axillary fold will help you in understanding the anatomy of the base of the axilla. Now coming to the medial wall of the axilla. Medial wall of the axilla is formed by a special muscle that starts from the medial border of the scapula, the whole medial border of the scapula inside of the anterior aspect of the scapula medial border. This whole will generate a muscle that is the serratus anterior muscle. From here it will start and will move towards the ribs, 8 ribs in the form of digitations, 8 digitations of the serratus anterior muscle. This is a muscle like this. You can also note down here these digitations. This is the serratus anterior muscle present over the medial aspect of the axilla in a convex form. Half of the serratus anterior muscle form the medial boundary of the axilla, because axilla extends till the fourth rib. So we will not say that whole of the serratus anterior muscle contribute to the axilla medial wall boundary. We will only say that serratus anterior muscle along with 4 ribs over the medial aspect will form the medial boundary of the axilla. Now look at here. I will now demonstrate the apex and the base of the axilla. This sketch is again very important for understanding the apex and the base of the axilla. This area is the apex of the axilla and this area is the base of the axilla. Any structure that wants to enter the axilla, it will enter through the apex. Keep in mind, any structure that wants to enter the axilla from the neck area, it will enter through the apex. And any structure that wants to leave the axilla, it will leave through the base. There is no other option. What that means? That there is no structure in our body that enters the axilla through the medial wall, through the anterior wall or through the posterior wall. Only option is the apex or the base of the axilla. That's why apex and base understanding is more important. Look at here. We're looking at the axilla from the top view. This is the clavicle, this is the scapula superior border, and this is the first rib, the outer border of the first rib. What is in between these three areas? We have got a triangular shape area in between three structures, between clavicle, between scapula superior border and between first rib. This is the apex of axilla. Keep in mind, this is the apex of the axilla. What is this area? Look at here. This area is the communication between thorax and the neck. Below is the thorax and above is the neck. Any structure that is inside thorax will come out of the thorax, will reach in the neck, and then from the neck it will move towards the axilla and then towards the upper limb. So from here we can easily demonstrate what are the boundaries of the apex of the axilla. Now look at here. I will demonstrate the surface marking of the apex of axilla. This is very easy. You just have to place your finger behind your clavicle. Here, if you place your finger at this location, you have located the apex of axilla. Now you can see over the front of the apex of axilla, we have got clavicle, posterior border. Over the back of the apex of the axilla, we have got the superior border of the scapula. And over the middle aspect of the apex of axilla, we have got the first rib, the outer border of the first rib. This is apex of axilla. Now look at here. I will demonstrate here the base of axilla. The base of axilla is nothing but just the skin stretching between the anterior and the posterior axillary walls. This is the anterior axillary fold, this is the posterior axillary fold, and in between the skin stretching is the base of the axilla. You can see armpit is actually the base of the axilla. You can also look at here, this is the posterior axillary fold, this is the anterior axillary fold, and in between we have got the base of the axilla. Now look at here, I will describe a simple plan how you should start studying the arteries that supply the upper limb. what should be the orientation, what should be the simple concept, I am going to demonstrate you here. We have got heart inside our thoracic cavity. From the heart we get arch of aorta. First of all, the arch of aorta will provide branches for the upper limb and for the head and neck. Arch of aorta provides us a left subclavian artery for the left upper limb. Arch of aorta gives us a left common carotid artery for left side of the head and neck. But for the right side, arch of aorta will not give two branches. First, it will give one branch. That one branch is the brachiocephalic trunk. Then brachiocephalic trunk will give us right common carotid artery for the right side of the head and neck and right subclavian artery for the right upper limb. I will repeat, we have got heart inside our thorax. This is the heart. From heart we get arch of aorta. Arch of aorta gives a branch for the left upper limb, that is left subclavian artery, for the left side of the head and neck, that is left common carotid artery. Then for the right side, a common branch, that is the brachiocephalic trunk, which will divide into a right common carotid artery for right side of the head and neck and a right subclavian artery for the right upper limb. This is the subclavian artery which will supply the upper limb. The origin of this artery is in the neck. After the neck, the artery is present inside the axilla. After the axilla, this artery enters the arm. In each area, the artery will get a name. In the neck, the artery is subclavian artery. When it is in axilla, the name of the artery is the axillary artery. And when it is in the arm, the name will be brachial artery. I will repeat, subclavian artery is source of blood to the upper limb. For supplying upper limb, it will exit the neck and it will reach the axilla, and then it will exit the axilla and it will reach the arm. So first we will name it subclavian artery, then we will name the same artery as the axillary artery, and then we will name the same artery as the brachial artery. Keep in mind, this is one continuous artery, but the name changes according to the location. Now look at here. I will again draw the heart, the arch of aorta and branches coming from the arch of aorta to show you the extent of the subclavian artery. What's the bony landmark for determining the extent of the subclavian artery? Where the subclavian artery will end and it will continue into the axillary artery. So this is arch of aorta. From arch of aorta we get left subclavian artery, we get left common carotid artery, and then we get common brachiocephalic trunk which divide into right common carotid artery and right subclavian artery. Now note down the bony landmark when we will say that this is no more subclavian artery. After crossing that bony landmark, we will say that this is the axillary artery. That bony landmark is the boundary of the apex of axilla. This is the outer border of the first rib. You know that when a structure will cross the outer border of the first rib, it will be in axilla. I will repeat, you have to note down, this is the outer border of first rib. And when a structure will cross outer border of the first rib, the structure will be in axilla and the name will be axillary artery. So in this way, subclavian artery when crosses the outer border of the first rib, it enters the axilla and the name of the artery is axillary artery. Same is the case on the other side. The artery will cross the outer border of first rib. It will enter the axilla. The name will be axillary artery. Now look at here. I'll demonstrate the extent of axillary artery and how the axillary artery is divided into three parts. There is the subclavian artery, and after crossing the first rib outer margin, the subclavian artery will be named as the axillary artery. I repeat, you have to remember the outer border of first rib. From here, the subclavian artery will end and axillary artery will start. Now I will show you how the axillary artery is divided into different parts. There is a muscle that crosses the axillary artery from the front. That muscle is pectoralis minor muscle. You can note down here that pectoralis minor muscle is present over the axillary artery over its front. So this is pectoralis minor muscle starting from rib number 3, 4 and 5 and ending at the coracobrachialis, crossing the axillary artery from front and dividing the axillary artery into three parts. The first part of the axillary artery is between outer border of the first rib and before the pec minor starts. This is the first part of the axillary artery, and behind the pec minor, the part of the axillary artery will be named as the second part of the axillary artery, and after the pec minor until the axilla ends, this part is known as the third part of the axillary artery. In this way, with the help of the pectoralis minor muscle, we divide the axillary artery into three parts. Now look at this sketch. What I have shown you, this is the first rib, this is the coracoid process, and this is the humerus bone. This is the teres major muscle attached over the medial lip of the intertubercular groove. Axilla will start at the outer margin of the first rib and axilla will end at the lower border of the teres major. Keep in mind these two landmarks. Axilla will start at the outer border of the first rib and axilla will end at the lower margin of the teres major. Now I'll show you the axillary artery, how the axillary artery is present over this area and how pectoralis minor muscle will cross the artery from the front. Look at here. This is the axillary artery present inside the axilla and this is the pectoralis minor muscle attached over coracoid process, dividing the artery into three parts. Artery starts here over the outer margin of the first rib. This is subclavian artery. This is axillary artery. And from the outer margin of the first rib till the pec minor lateral margin, we have got this first part of the axillary artery. Behind the pec minor, this whole of the axillary artery is the second part of the axillary artery. This is the first part, this is the second part. After the medial border of the pectoralis minor muscle and the lower margin of the teres major muscle, this part of the axillary artery is the third part of axillary artery. So keep in mind, pectoralis minor is the muscle that divides the axillary artery into three parts. Now I will demonstrate you the relations of three parts of axillary artery. I will demonstrate in an easiest way. Keep in mind, this is the difficult most part for majority of the students. They don't know how to remember the relations of the three parts of the axillary artery. I will give you the easiest plan, the simplest plan. You will never forget the relations of the three parts of axillary artery. First of all, I will show you how the axillary vein is related with the axillary artery. Look at here. This is the axillary vein and throughout its course, it lies medial to the axillary artery. So whenever you are asked about the relations of the first part, second part or the third part of the axillary artery, this is the common point that you write down. Axillary vein lies medial to the axillary artery. After the axillary vein, I'll talk about the brachial plexus. You know, brachial plexus origin is inside the neck. Its origin is inside the neck from C5, 6, 7, 8, T1 ventral rami. These become roots of the brachial plexus. The formation of the brachial plexus we can remember with the help of mnemonic that RTDC. RTDC means we'll get the roots first, then from root we'll get the trunk, then comes the devian and then comes the cord. Let me demonstrate further. From these roots of the brachial plexus, that is C5 to T1, 5 roots, we get 3 trunks, upper, middle and lower trunk. From 5 roots we get 3 trunks. After the trunks we'll get the devians. There are 6 devians from the 3 trunks because each trunk will divide into 2 devians, anterior and posterior. All posterior will unite to form the posterior cord of the brachial plexus. The anterior of the upper and the middle will unite to form the lateral cord, and anterior devian of the lower will continue as the medial cord of the brachial plexus. So we have got a lateral cord, we have got a posterior cord and we have got a medial cord. Here comes the important most question. Why lateral cord is labeled as lateral, why posterior cord is labeled as posterior and why medial cord is labeled as medial cord? The answer to this question will help you a lot about the relations of the axillary artery, because answer to this question is a very important fact that axillary artery, this axillary artery is the reference structure. This axillary artery will decide what is medial, what is lateral and what is posterior. If a cord is present over its lateral aspect, that cord is lateral. If a cord is present over its medial aspect, that cord is medial. And if a cord is present over the back side of the artery, that cord is a posterior cord. Therefore, axillary artery is the reference structure of the axilla. Now you can easily understand the posterior cord will move posterior to the axillary artery. The lateral cord will be on the lateral aspect of the axillary artery, and the medial cord will be present over the medial aspect of the axillary artery. Before going further, I'll show you the location of the root, trunk, devian and cords of the brachial plexus. These are the root of brachial plexus which are present inside the neck. After the root, we have got the trunk and the deviance. This is the level that brachial plexus gets entry inside the axilla through the apex of axilla. Keep in mind, at the level of trunks and deviance, brachial plexus gets entry into the axilla through the apex of the axilla. The next level is the chords of the brachial plexus. You can note down chords of the brachial plexus are directly related with the axillary artery, lateral, medial and posterior. But more important is to note down what part of axillary artery. This is more important, that you have to note down what part of axillary artery is exactly related with the chords of the brachial plexus, and that part is the second part of the axillary artery. This will help you in writing the relations of the second part of the axillary artery. Whenever you are asked about the relations of the second part of the axillary artery, you can say medially we have got the medial cord, laterally we have got the lateral cord, and on the posterior we have got the posterior cord. So keep in mind, cords of the brachial plexus are inside axilla, directly related with the axillary artery, but the second part of the axillary artery. Students, I gave you a simple and easy concept how to remember the relations of the second part of the axillary artery. How the second part of the axillary artery is related with the brachial plexus. Now comes the third part of the axillary artery. I again gave you a simple plan how you will remember the structures of the brachial plexus related with the third part of the axillary artery. This is very simple. Just keep in mind, the branches of the lateral cord will be lateral to the axillary artery third part, and branches of the posterior cord will most probably, will approximately be posterior to the third part of the axillary artery. Likewise, the branches of the medial cord will most probably medial to the third part of the axillary artery. I'll show you in detail, just wait a while. But don't forget this rough idea. The lateral cord is lateral to the second part of the axillary artery, and its branches will approximately be lateral to the third part of axillary artery. Posterior cord is posterior to the second part of the axillary artery, and its branches will most probably posterior to the third part of the axillary artery. Medial cord is medial to the second part of the axillary artery, and its branches will be medial to the third part of the axillary artery approximately. And especially those branches which enter the arm and accompany the artery for a longer duration. I repeat, especially those branches that lead towards the arm and will accompany the artery for a longer duration. Let me explain now in an easy way. Branches of the lateral cord are the lateral pectoral nerve, lateral root of the medial nerve, and the musculocutaneous nerve. Among these branches, musculocutaneous nerve is the branch that will accompany further and will be on the lateral side of the third part of the axillary artery. Branches of the posterior cord are the upper subscapular nerve, lower subscapular nerve, nerve latissimus dorsi, radial nerve, and the axillary nerve. Among these branches, upper and lower subscapular nerve and nerve latissimus dorsi will not accompany towards the arm. This is the axillary nerve and the radial nerve that will move further towards the arm, towards their target. So these two nerves will be on the posterior aspect of the third part of the axillary artery. So what was the simple rule? That a cord is lateral and the branch will be lateral. A cord is posterior and the branches will be posterior. Likewise, the branches of the medial cord are the medial cutaneous nerve of the arm, medial cutaneous nerve of the forearm, medial pectoral nerve, ulnar nerve, and medial root of the median nerve. Among these branches, ulnar nerve will accompany further, will move towards the arm, and it will be present over the medial aspect of the axillary artery third part. So in this way, you will get some data that you will write in your exams. This is better than data that at least you remember some things with the help of the concept. Now look at here, I'll quickly demonstrate about the muscles present on the front of the axillary artery. What are the muscles that are present on the front? It will help us in adding more data about the relations of the axillary artery. You know that we've got the pectoralis minor muscle crosses the artery in the middle area, and we divide the artery with the help of the pectoralis minor into three parts. So whenever you are asked about the relations of the second part of the axillary artery, you will write down pectoralis minor. You will not write down pectoralis minor in first part and the third part. Here comes the big muscle of the pectoral region, superficial and big muscle, that is the pectoralis major muscle. Pectoralis major muscle is present all over this area. This whole area is covered with the help of a muscle, that is the pectoralis major muscle. This is a big muscle. Why I am showing you this? Because this will help you adding more data. Whenever you are asked about the relation of the first part, you write down pec major muscle. Whenever you are asked about the relation of the second part, you write down pec major as well as pec minor muscle. And when you are asked about the anterior relations of the third part of axillary artery, you will again write down pec major. So don't forget to mention these two muscles. This is very easy whenever you are asked about the relations of the axillary artery. Now I'll talk about the last part of the relations, that is the posterior relations of the axillary artery. I'll try to make things easy. What you write down whenever you are asked about the posterior relations of the axillary artery. You know that over the posterior aspect of the axilla, we have got the scapula bone. And from the subscapular fossa, you know that we get muscle, that is the subscapularis muscle. From here, we have got the muscle, that is the subscapularis muscle. The other two muscles from the lateral border are the teres major muscle and the latissimus dorsi muscle. So concentrate here. Over the back of the axilla, we have got three muscles. Now I'll draw axillary artery here and I'll show you what are the muscles present over the back of the axillary artery. Axillary artery is present in the axilla, and the back wall of the axilla we've got subscapularis muscle, we have got teres major muscle, and we have got latissimus dorsi muscle. Here you can easily note down that posterior aspect of the second part of the axillary artery, we have got the subscapularis muscle, and posterior aspect of the third part of the axillary artery, we have got the teres major muscle and the latissimus dorsi muscle. So this is about the posterior relations of the axillary artery.
That's all about the relations of the axillary artery. This is the difficult most part of the upper limb region, but I tried my level best to give you a simple concept how to understand the relations of the axillary artery. Keep in mind, these details are very much important because in my upcoming lecture, that is neurovascular of the arm, will connect the knowledge that we have learned from here. In that lecture, I'll talk about the course of the radial nerve, ulnar nerve, median nerve, musculocutaneous nerve, axillary nerve, and the brachial artery. I'll talk about the course of these structures, but what is the origin of these structures? We have already completed this detail in this lecture. Whenever you are asked about the radial nerve course, you'll talk about the origin first. And the origin I have described with the posterior cord of the brachial plexus, and after that the course will start. The course will start in the axilla. You will say that it's the branch of the posterior cord of the brachial plexus, and in the beginning, it lies posterior to the third part of the axillary artery. Likewise, whenever you are asked about the axillary nerve, you will say it's the branch of the posterior cord of the brachial plexus, and initially it lies posterior to the third part of the axillary artery. If you are asked about the musculocutaneous nerve, you will say it's the branch of the lateral cord of the brachial plexus, and in the beginning, it lies lateral to the third part of the axillary artery. And when you are asked about the ulnar nerve, you will say it's the branch of the medial cord of the brachial plexus, and in the start it lies medial to the third part of the axillary artery. And if you are asked about the median nerve course, you will talk about the origin first. You will say median nerve is formed by union of the medial root and the lateral root, coming from medial cord and the lateral cord, and union of the two roots is in front of the third part of the axillary artery. And after that we will start the course of the median nerve. So don't forget these points what we learned in this lecture. I will connect these facts, I utilize these details when I will start my second lecture, when I will start my next lecture, that is the neurovascular of the arm region. Good luck my students, you will learn the anatomy in an amazing way. If you have got any feedback, write down in the comments. If you got any benefit from this lecture, like the video and share it with your friends and subscribe my channel. Take care. Allah Hafiz.